Wow, this was a 28-minute episode that could have easily been finished by the 15th minute mark, 20 minutes tops. So, the plot of this episode is Ashoka trains Sabine and is later attacked by a generic blonde baddie and some red shirts, and we get a space shootout. Meanwhile, Hera goes before a New Republic panel to petition them for a fleet to find Thrawn and therefore Ezra. But her request is refused. And we also see the space whales that are the Purgle. That's it. That's the plot of today's episode. Now, last week, I said I was going to try to be impartial, and I hope I've kept to that. But come on, Disney, help me out here. So let's break it down. There's a training montage. It's going good. Sabine and Hu Yong, the new droid / merchandise, are using training sabers like we saw in the Rebel show. Now I can get behind this as we've seen it already. So far, so good. They're setting something up, or at least showing and telling us you must train to hone your skills. Now, some have said this is a dig at Rey's phenomenal ability out of nowhere. I personally don't think Dave is brave enough for that, but it's welcome to see. Now, I can hear the glee from the more easily swayed fans for what happens next. Ashoka pulls out a training mask, much like in A New Hope, where Luke trains with the helmet that has the blast shield down. Now, at what point does a homage become copy and paste? It's like copying your mate's homework, but changing just enough that it looks like you did it. This scene possibly goes on too long, and then later we get Ashoka talking to her about using the Force, but it sounds like it's their first time talking about it. Sabine should have known about the Force and how it works just in talking with Kanan, let alone the training she previously had. We get her at the meeting. Alright, come on now. Now, last week I gave the show the benefit of the doubt, but was it really necessary to have the only two men, failing aside, in this episode be so dismissive of her suspicion? It just seems to be yet another case of making men dumb or arrogant. At this point, the biggest surprise was that they weren't white. Now they tell her there is no evidence to support her suspicions. Okay, so why doesn't she show them the holotape footage? You know, the footage of who destroyed the ship. That seems kind of important. Two Force users have broken your high-value target out of custody. You have evidence to present to them. And yet she doesn't. After that, we get a cameo of her son Jason, and it's nice to see Dave hasn't forgotten about him. After all, he is male. Sabine. Why are they trying to force the Force on Sabine? She has never been Force sensitive and was a warrior in her own right. That is until Dave apparently forgot about his own creation. In Rebels, she was the weapons and tech expert, a dead shot with almost any weapon. What happened to her, and why was she changed so dramatically? Also, if she is Force sensitive, why or how did Kanan not pick up on it in all the years they worked and lived together on the Ghost? Yet he sensed Ezra within a few minutes. They've just made him one step away from incompetent. How does that work? Yes, I know the Force resides in all living things. I know it penetrates us and binds the galaxy together. I even know that Yoda told clones in episode 1 of the Clone Wars that they can use the Force to quieten their minds. But other than this being either a complete retcon or a direct order from the Wicked Witch, what is the reason behind it other than the power of vagina? Let's talk about Ahsoka again. She wouldn't train Grogu because of his attachment to Mando, but she's training Sabine despite her obvious attachments. That makes no sense at all. And I can't even fathom how they're going to make it make sense. Ahsoka in space. Now, I know many will pick at this. And to be fair, it looks absolutely stupid. It looks silly from an effects point of view. And they just can't seem to capture the effect of weightlessness. But in Rising Malevolence, Master Plo Koon does fight in space, though he doesn't have a spacesuit on. He simply says, I can survive the pressure for a brief time. Now, presumably, that was because of the Force. And I think what we got here in this episode is most definitely the definition of it works and looks good in animation, but not live action. Meanwhile, generic female blonde baddie and some red shirts conduct a space battle, and that's how we get the Ahsoka in space bit. Now, these are presumably fighters, yet they are either woefully underarmed or they have piss-poor tactics using them. And yes, I know they couldn't actually blast the ship into a million pieces, but it's not done well. And can lightsabers deflect blasters of that power? I mean, why don't the fighters open fire and use distance to their advantage? The space whales turn up and our crew manages to use them as cover to land and hide in the jungle using the trees as cover. Young tells them that the Ring of Siren can transport itself to another galaxy the same way the Purgle can. Meanwhile, at the end, Balin sends some unfortunate red shirts to go find them. That's his involvement in it, sadly. And that's the end of the episode. Now, right now, I can't figure out who this is for. It seems like the show wants to have its cake and eat it. Is it aimed at the hardcore fans who have watched all the required shows? Or is it for normies and that's why it's slow paced? I know I've said it already, but why was it this long? And 28 minutes isn't long at all. Also, why are there no men in the show? Or when they are in, why are they always arrogant and evil? It's been done in every Marvel show now, and we don't need it in Star Wars either. And this show doesn't seem to be written for men. It doesn't seem to be written like it's for girls. It seems to me like it's the same people that She-Hulk went for. Wine mums past their best, blaming men for not having the life that they had envisaged. And right now, we're 3 episodes in. And let's be honest, very little has happened yet. Now, we know one of the points of this show was, to set up the crossover event that was announced. So I wouldn't expect much of Thrawn to be in it, honestly. Hopefully I'm wrong and we get more. But I wonder if the big cliffhanger of the last episode will be his arrival. That's all from me. I hope for more next week. See you later. Ta-da.